Hello and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. And of course it's an LP that probably everyone's done, but you know, I don't care because I'm having fun. And I think that's the important thing. Anyways, on the last episode, we went to the village and we got some bombs. And we got a few harp pieces, so that's nice. And we also got the magic mushroom, which is going to be useful later, but I thought I'd go ahead and show you this little fairy hole. And there's plenty of fairies in the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, but that's actually pretty nice. It makes the game a little easier. Not that the game is really that difficult, but if you haven't played it before, yeah, I'd say it's difficult. Or at least it was for me, but then again, I was, what, like 12 or something? So, whatever. I think there's still a modicum of challenge to this game, despite the fact that it's so old, but, you know, that's okay. And if I can get out of here, it would be nice. But anyway, we're heading up to a particular friend of ours, and you might be able to guess who we're about to visit. Oh, witch lady. So anyways, let's go ahead and give her the mushroom. And basically the way this works is you just can walk in and out of the shop, you know, a few times and get it. But I'm just gonna walk off screen. Well, once I get in and out of the shop, but you'll see. Here we can get the magic medicine, but really you don't need it. There are other ways to improve your odds. I mean, you can if you want to, but we're not going to do that. Anyways, let's make a little bit of a cut, and I'll show you where the special magic powder is. And this is basically tied to your magic meters, so unlike Link's Awakening, you know, as long as you have magic, you can use it. And yes, I know I could use the magic powder on a particular enemy just there, but maybe later. Also, I was looking at the sequence breaking. Some dungeons we can't really get into until we get certain items. So, I mean, there is the potential where I could go through and get all the items and then go back and finish the dungeons, but that would take a lot longer and be very inefficient. So I can't really, well, I could do that, but I'm kind of leaning against that, but I'm open to other suggestions. Because there are a few dungeons you can do before other dungeons, if you know what I mean. But here's one thing where we can sequence break a little bit. Instead of going to visit the Elder, right off the bat, basically what I want to do... I made a mistake down there, that's okay. Basically what I want to do is just head off to the palace, because we really don't have to speak to the Elder just yet. I mean, we could, but it's really pointless at this point. We might as well just take care of the palace, because we know what we need to do. We don't need advice from old people. Nah. That's right, viewers, don't listen to your elders. Just kidding. You should probably listen to your elders sometimes if they got good advice. You know, they may have some things to say to you. And let's go up the stairs. And this is the first palace, the Eastern Palace. And it's not too difficult. I mean, it's a good introductory palace, you know, it gives you a feel for the mechanics of the game, a feel for the mechanics of the palace enemies, and especially kind of the mechanics of the palaces themselves, even though we did get kind of a preview of that before we headed over to the Sanctuary. But that's okay. Anyways, we wanted to avoid those steel balls, obviously. We can go left or right. Basically, I'm not really consulting a map when I'm playing this. I'm just kind of doing it from memory. But that's alright. There are going to be a few minor cuts here and there. I mean, you don't want to see me getting lost or doing something stupid, or maybe you do, I don't know. But anyways, we can't go over there just yet, but I like how this kind of shows you the treasure, and it kind of hints at where you need to go if you took the wrong way. Avoid the anti-fairies, of course. And down here, we get the map. Now, we don't really need the map in every single dungeon, but I'll try to get it, you know. Anyways, here's the map. That's what the dungeon looks like, and I like that the dungeons, well, basically, I mean, the first dungeons in The Legend of Zelda technically didn't have multiple levels, but you did have secret passages, which I guess would be considered the basement. And then you had multiple level dungeons in The Adventure of Link, of course. But here we take the multiple dungeons, or multiple levels to a different, the multiple level dungeons to a different, different degree, I suppose. Of course, I went back to the, overhead style. But I don't know, in the, Adventure of Link, I did like the way the palaces were, you know, platforming. It was a little different. I think the Zelda franchise did experiment quite a bit, if you think about it, with the platforming element, because they did bring it back in the next Zelda game. But only briefly. Only briefly. I never could figure out what those little statues were north of that treasure chest, you know? And we can't go that way, by the way, but I just wanted to show you that that is a one-way passage. Well, at least one-way columns, anyway. We're getting more arrows, so it's kind of hinting at what we're going to get in this dungeon. What's in that big chest there. And these guys you can get rid of with the pots there. If you notice, I think they briefly turned red, which is kind of interesting because there's a palette swap. Maybe not a palette swap, but a different, well, an enemy that's just like those Cyclops that are red, that cannot be damaged by the pots. But anyway. This is our first big chest. Unfortunately, we don't have the big key, so... And just like the big chest, the big key also opens the, well, it's not really the big door, but it's a special door. Basically, the big key door is just leading us to another section of the dungeon, and I kind of like the way that they did that. By the way, I'm catching a fairy for later. This is useful. Anyways, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I like that they did the dungeon design, or the palace design, where they had two sections of the palace, where the first section is where you get acquainted with the item, and the second section usually is where you use the item, or are encouraged to use the item. So I like that. This is why I wanted the magic powder. Just to show you that. And you notice the lamp isn't eating away at our magic meter, so that's pretty nice. It's kind of a weird layer overlay there, because it really always, well, it doesn't always follow Link, the lamp overlay. If you go off to the edge of the screen there. Something I noticed. Anyways, we get some pots and a key, so that's nice. Time to move on. See right there, the overlay didn't move with Link. But that was just a limitation of the Super Nintendo. That's all it is. I like how this dungeon, the first palace, actually loops back over some of the same areas, you know. So it's like it shows you an area. And I missed the magic powder there, so I said screw it. But it shows you an area. And then it says, okay, try to figure out a way to get up here. I like that. That's good palace or good dungeon design. Really good game design, I think. A lot of games now are really mostly linear. And that's one thing I don't like. I like when games are sort of non-linear, and they encourage you to explore and go into locations where, you know, you can see it, but you're wondering, well, how do I get up there? You know? Anyways, you don't have to convert some of these anti-fairies, but I decided to just leave them alone, to show you can at least avoid them. But now they've got the big key, we can go north here. Now we can kind of circle back to the right here. I almost said to the left. I'm a nut. But now that we got the big key, guess what we can do? We can get the bow. And once you get the bow, they do throw a few more enemies your way, but I'm not really worried about them. So let's get the heck out of here. Anyways, back here, I didn't show this. It's just an extra treasure chest. You don't have to get it, but if you want a few extra rupees, 100 rupees, or more, then by all means get it. 112 rupees. It's free, and you're gonna need them. I also like the sprite work in this game. It's very well done. It's very polished considering the limitations of the colors that they had at the time, you know. And the limitations of the layering as well. I like when a game can get around limitations rather than say, well, you know, the player's gonna have a machine with so much horsepower, we don't really need to do that. And a lot of games now, well, I mean, there are a few, you know, difficult things that games have to do now, obviously, but the horsepower is such that you don't have to worry as much, I think. Or maybe you do. I mean, you know, if I need to be corrected on that, that's fine. But I do think it's a little different now. Or at least if they're limitations, they're not as obvious, you know. And of course we've got 3 Cyclops here, but that's not bad. Thankfully we've got the bow and arrow to deal with them, and although I completely screw up, we're still okay. You don't have to get rid of all 3, but you can. Made it through there without a problem. It's funny, some things I'll do really stupidly and some things I do really well. But, you know, that's just the way I am. Come back here. Come back here. Got him. Now this guy, by the way, we can't get rid of him with the pots. So we just have to use the bow and arrow. And the bow and arrow actually has kind of a little bit of a delay. But I like that. It's a little more of a challenge. Wake him up and shoot him in the eye. And if you're low on hearts or arrows, you know, you get some extra arrows here, so that's nice. I mean, you'll have at least 20 arrows before you go into the next room. And you'll need them, because guess what we have to deal with here? Armos statues, and 6 of them. This is easy though. I find the best strategy is just to kind of sit in the corner here and just keep firing your arrows. And they'll just walk right into them. Now, there are speed runs where they take care of these guys pretty quickly. And if only we had a more powerful arrow to take care of them, if you know what I mean. But maybe we'll know about that later. Anyways, we got our nice little pendant of power, so that's nice. Let's see what happens. Well, pendant of courage, sorry. It's got some sort of power to it. Anyways, that wraps up this episode. So thank you so much for watching Let's Play Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Have a good day. Goodbye.